Hello and welcome to Freed Indeed Live. I'm your host, Kevin J. N. Hughes, and I am here today to do a special um, episode of Freed Indeed Live. A lot of people have been talking about Women's History Month, and um, I don't generally do anything related to these sort of secular festivals because, in general, I think that secular things are usually they usually have frankly Marxist backgrounds and anti-Christian backgrounds. However, I was thinking that for Women's History Month, we could do something special with Orthodox saints on womanhood and women, and what it means to be a godly woman. Now, um, before I get into it, if you love what we do here at Freed Indeed Ministries and want to see more resources available, um, not just from through the show, but all of the things that we do, um, and all of the things that we do for men and women, um, a- all of the different programs Freed Indeed Ministries is involved in. If you want to be supporting that, then follow the links in the description below. And also, please do check out our sponsor, God the Father Apparel. Right now, you can use promo code FREED at God the Father Apparel, and promo code FREED will enable you to receive discounts on your purchases, and you'll be supporting Freed Indeed Ministries. So, without further ado, let's get right into. Oh, actually, one more thing. I do also want to let you guys know, even though they're not a sponsor of the show, I just really want to let you guys know about Share the Faith. So check out Share the Faith at sharethefaith.net. I have a link to their website as well. Great people, good resources for priests and enabling priests to shepherd their congregations. So definitely check that out if you support the mission work of the Orthodox Church. Now, let's get right into our show today. I don't think today is going to be a super long episode. We're just going to look at several quotes from various saints on the topic of godly womanhood. A lot of this is going to be taken from Ortho Spirituality on Instagram. He did a lot of the graphics that I'm going to be using. That said, um, I have added a little bit, but he did most of the graphics, so I want to give credit where credit is due. So first of all, Saint Maria of Paris said, quote, "A good woman is like a treasure hidden in a field, waiting to be discovered and cherished. She brings joy and peace to those around her and is a source of light in the darkness," end quote. So what we learn about godly womanhood in this quote is that to be a godly woman is to be like a treasure hidden in a field. Well, what does that mean? A treasure hidden in a field. It means that godly women aren't necessarily out putting themselves out there, trying to get noticed by everyone, trying to be um, trying to push themselves on people and impose their will on people. Godly women are like a treasure hidden in a field. They need to be pursued and discovered. So this is part of the importance of this is because, oops, my bad. Sorry about that. Part of the importance of this is because, especially in our modern day, there's a lot of kind of, how should I say, women are kind of encouraged to be a little bit more assertive than maybe they were encouraged to be in the past. And that's not entirely wrong, but I think St. Maria of Paris is making a really good point that the truth is that godly women are those who are waiting to be discovered. Godly men should be pursuing godly women. And it's good for it's kind of like in the tango, the man pursues the woman, the masculine pursues the feminine. And so, this is an important part of how society functions, is that women are not supposed to be the ones doing the pursuing. Men should be the ones pursuing women. But once discovered, she's to be cherished. She's a treasure that is to be cherished and brings joy and peace to those around her. So, in the secular world, there's kind of this sense that women are encouraged to be kind of quarrelsome and bring a lot of stress to those around them. And not just in the realm of dating, although I've certainly experienced that before I was in the church, but even outside of the realm of dating, you know, a lot of times there's sort of workplace drama, and there's all these things. And I often hear, you know, people talk about this as though it's normal, but Saint Maria of Paris gives us a good example here of the fact that a godly woman brings joy and peace to those around her and is like a source of light in the darkness. So a godly woman is not a woman who's quarrelsome and bringing stress to those around her. She brings peace to those around her. And, I can say that this is one of the great blessings that I have with Cheryl. She's this kind of woman. She's a very calming presence. Um, when there are stressful situations, Cheryl is helpful in them, not quarrelsome. Yeah, this is a great example. This is kind of taken pretty directly from the book of Proverbs, but a very great example of what godly womanhood is. Saint Thecla, the proto martyr, says, "Be steadfast in your strength, be strong in your spirit, be unwavering in your love for Christ. And when you face trials and temptations, remember that you are a daughter of the kingdom and press forward in hope." So so this is part of being a godly man or woman, but we're focusing on women today. So part of being a godly woman is you have to be steadfast in your faith. You have to be strong in your spirit. A lot of times I think one mistake that gets made in trad circles is that people say that they reject the idea of a strong woman. Well, we should reject the foolish idea that women are stronger than men. That's obviously not the case. Um, we should reject the tendency of Hollywood now to have all of the strong characters be female. We should be rejecting these feminist narratives, but we should not reject the concept of the kind of strength that women can possess. And I think that within fiction, Galadriel is a very good example of the kind of strength that women can possess, a kind of strength that is disarming, a kind of feminine strength that is not, one of the reasons why I have not liked the new Middle Earth series, whatever it is, the one on Amazon, Rings of Power. One of the reasons I didn't like that series and haven't encouraged people to watch it is because I feel that its portrayal of Galadriel is essentially, it does the Hollywood trope of taking a female character and making her masculine. But the actual character of Galadriel from the books, and even from the Peter Jackson films from the early 2000s, that Galadriel character is capable of a kind of strength that is unique to femininity. So I think that that presents a very good example of the kind of strength that is present in the feminine. And this is the kind of strength that Saint Thecla is talking about, not a kind of strength where women are trying to be like men. That's not a feminine strength. That's women imitating the masculine. And s- and as one person has said, I can't remember who said this quote, but that kind of attempt to have uh, women be these feminist icons, it is just trying to make women into men, and that's a waste of a good woman. Um, but what Saint Thecla is talking about is being steadfast in faith and having the kind of strength that comes from femininity, the kind of strength that's required to be a mother and raise up good children, the kind of strength that's required to teach children wisdom and train them up in the way they should go, the kind of strength that's required to be the keeper of a home, to be the kind of woman described in Proverbs 31 who is a benefit to her husband in all of these ways, uh, or to be a nun, to surrender childbearing and these things and entirely devote your life to the service of Christ. There's nothing wrong with that either. In fact, that requires a kind of strength. So the the point is that when we face trials and temptations, um, whether we're men or women, but again, we're focused on women this time. When we face these trials and temptations, ladies, you need to be strong and you need to make war against the kingdom of Antichrist in the power of Christ. And that means having the strength to submit to your husband when it's difficult. It means having the strength to be a good mother to your children. Sometimes that means having the strength to be hard on your kids. Sometimes it means having the strength to be soft with your kids. That requires a kind of strength as well. But all of that is the beauty of the strength that is present in the feminine. So, definitely, we want you to be strong women of Christ. We don't want you to be masculine women, but we do want you to be strong feminine women. St. Melania the Younger writes, a true Christian woman should be known for her kindness, charity, and the love that she shows to all people. So, again, this is a quote that you could probably apply to men as well, but we're talking about women. What is the nature of godly womanhood? Well, it's the ability to be known for kindness and charity. There's a kind of feminine grace that I think rightly goes along with this, that godly women are kind and gracious to those around them, to all people around them. Um, so again, godly women aren't quarrelsome. And the thing is that not being quarrelsome isn't just avoiding quarrels in your own home. It's not being quarrelsome when you're out and about in the world. It's not being quarrelsome when you're at the grocery store. It's not being quarrelsome when someone cuts you off in traffic. Um, when Proverbs talks about not being with a quarrelsome, what about the trial of being with a quarrelsome woman, it doesn't just mean that this woman is not quarrelsome with her husband. It means that she's not quarrelsome in general. Um, so this kind of peace and kindness on display is a strong mark of godliness. St. Nectarios writes, the foundation of a woman's dignity is her spiritual life and her love for God. For when these are strong, the rest will follow. So, again, this is just a really beautiful sentiment, a powerful quote the very foundation of the spiritual life for a godly woman is her love for God. So if you so, you know, we talk a lot about women needing to submit to their husbands, and that's good. In the traditional community, we talk a lot about submission and gender roles and these things, and all of that is very true and good. But if the foundation of that is not a pure love for God, then that becomes idolatrous and can actually become harmful to the person. Whereas if something flows out of a genuine love for God, then that's the foundation for a woman's dignity in her spiritual life. And when these things are strong, the rest will follow. So if you truly have this passionate love for God and you truly cultivate this loving relationship with God, then of course you will be a good wife and a good mother. Um, because you've already got the first thing first. You've already set the first thing in the right place. I have seen I've seen this happen in, different directions though. I've seen women who did not cultivate, who thought they were good wives but did not cultivate that love for God, and I've seen how it over time turned them into very unpleasant wives for their husbands and very unpleasant mothers. On the other hand, I've seen women who didn't necessarily start out having a foundation of being godly or submissive or good wives for their husbands, and yet over time, because of their great love for God, they've cultivated that. And again, using Cheryl as an example, um, she's a really good example of how it, the foundation of her love for God and her love for Christ, I believe, has I've watched over the years as this has shaped her into a godly woman and a very good wife to me. So that's I hope that that's very encouraging to any ladies out there who maybe you feel like you maybe you feel like you are quarrelsome, maybe you feel like you aren't ready to be a wife yet but you want to be, or you feel like you aren't ready to be a nun yet but you want to be, you feel like you need to cultivate that. This is the first step, is be a woman of prayer, be a woman of fasting, be a woman who's cultivating that deep love for Christ. Spend your time in the liturgy, be about the things of the liturgy, be going to the divine liturgy, going to vespers. Do these things because in cultivating that relationship with Christ and that relationship with God, you will actually um be doing you'll actually be building that foundation upon which all of the rest of this is going to rest. So moving on, St. John of Climacus writes, "A woman of faith is a woman of strength, courage, and wisdom who faces life's challenges with confidence and grace." So again, a woman of faith, uh, being a woman of faith does not mean being just, you know, um, there to be pushed over by everybody. Being a woman of faith means that you have that feminine strength, that kind of courage and backbone to stand up for Christ and to stand up for your husband and children, not in an ungodly way, but in a godly way. That you are going to be that woman who's always ready to have the strength to serve your husband and have the courage to face a modern world that rejects virtuous women and desires women to be um as GK Chesterton puts it, to serve their bosses instead of serving their husbands, because for some reason in feminism, serving your husband makes you a slave, but serving a complete stranger makes you liberated. um Only modernism can be that stupid. But nevertheless, that is the world that we face today. Godly womanhood, femininity is under attack. And if you're going to be a godly woman, you need to have the strength and courage to stand up against a world that rejects you. You need to have the strength and courage to be a woman of faith who's ready to reject LGBT propaganda, who's ready to reject feminist propaganda, and who's ready to stand firm in the faith and knowledge of Christ. Finally, this is a quote not just for women. This one's really for men as well. Um, but it's about the family, and he does have great advice for women. So this is Saint John Chrysostom. He says, "The love of a husband and a wife is a force that welds society together. Men will take up arms and even sacrifice their lives for the sake of this love. St. Paul would not speak so earnestly about this subject without serious reason. Why else would he say, 'Wives, be subject to your husbands as to the Lord'? Because when harmony prevails, the children are raised well, the household is kept in order, and neighbors and friends and relatives praise the result. Great benefit great benefits, both families and states, are thus produced. When it is otherwise, however, everything is thrown into confusion and turned upside down. Is that not the world we live in today? Is it not the world we live in today that everything has been thrown into great confusion and turned upside down? Feminism has created a world in which people don't even know what gender they are. Feminism has created a world in which traditional gender roles have been cast aside, and as a result, we're left with people who are confused and broken and hurting. Feminism has created a world in which actual femininity is under attack, and women are instructed to behave like men instead of like women. This is exactly the world that St. John Chrysostom prophesied would come to pass if if people rejected the traditional gender roles that we've been talking about. But the reason why there is hope is because ultimately the love of a husband and a wife is the force that welds society together. And if we can bring back if we as Orthodox Christians can live in conformity with tradition and live in such a way that we are living according to our roles and taking up our responsibilities that God has given to us, then we will weld society back together, and we will be able to save multitudes of those around us. As Saint Seraphim of Sarov has said, if you cultivate the spirit of peace within yourself, then multitudes around you will be saved. So um thank you for watching today's episode. And it doesn't look like we have any questions, so I'm going to well, we do have Brother Brovat comments here. He says a biblical wife can also be a woman capable of putting a tent stake in a tyrant's skull should the need arise. um The the Holy Theotokos destroys feminism. Feminism arose in countries where the Theotokos is discounted and disparaged. That's not a coincidence. That's those are both very good points, Brother Brovet. Um, yes, jail is another paragon of a certain type of godly womanhood indeed. And yes, the Theotokos is the ultimate answer to feminism. Feminism is the anti-Theotokos, and you're absolutely right. It's no coincidence that feminism always arises in countries that have either no exposure to the Theotokos or that have embraced um, a kind of Protestant Christianity wherein the Theotokos is belittled and disparaged. Um, when we see that, we always see feminism follow. I saw that in Seventh day Adventism. Seventh day Adventism was was rife with feminism, and a big part of that is because Seventh day Adventism constantly disparages the Theotokos. So, um, you're absolutely right. Societies that reject the Theotokos will ultimately embrace feminism to their own destruction. So I hope that this video is helpful, especially to the ladies out there, as I'm mansplaining what womanhood is to the ladies. Um, but in all seriousness, please do share this with your friends so that they too can be freed indeed. And pray for our wives, pray for our mothers, pray for our sisters, pray. Like I said, in this world today, it's feminine women who are under attack. And so we need to be praying for our women that God would preserve them and help them to overcome this world. And so, Lady Theotokos, pray for us. Amen.